The commander's scarred hands trembled slightly. The human emerged from the shadows. Even now, I remember every detail. His uniform was soaked with blood. 3 plasma burns marked his body. His left arm hung useless at his side. By any rational standard, he should have been dead. But his eyes, Gray's outer membranes, shuddered. They weren't the eyes of a dying creature. They burned with something I'd never seen before. Not rage, not fear, but pure, unrelenting determination. He moved like his wounds didn't exist. Our medical scans later showed he had a punctured lung, severe internal bleeding, and multiple fractures. Yet he moved with deadly precision. I raised my weapon, but he was faster. The young soldiers leaned forward as Gray continued. The first shot took my lower right limb. Clean hit, right at the joint. I fell, but my combat training kicked in. I rolled, returned fire, hit him twice more, center mass, the kind of hits that would drop any of us instantly. He didn't even flinch. Gray's voice carried a note of lingering disbelief. Just kept coming. I managed to get behind a fallen tree, called for emergency extraction, but he was always one step ahead. The human had circled around while I was distracted. He dropped from above, just like with Jones, but I was ready. We fought hand to hand, my 3 remaining limbs against his 1 good arm and sheer will. Commander Gray touched his scared face. That's when I learned another terrifying truth about humans. Their bones. They don't break clean like ours. They splinter. When the human struck me, his broken arm should have been useless. Instead, the jagged bone edges became weapons. The young aliens unconsciously touched their own smooth exoskeletons as Gray continued. He was dying. Every movement cost him blood he couldn't spare. But his eyes never changed. That same burning determination. No fear, no hesitation. Just the absolute certainty that he would complete his mission or die trying. I managed to land what should have been a killing blow, pierced straight through his remaining good shoulder with my blade arm. "Do you know what he did?" Gray asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. The soldiers shook their heads, entranced by the tale. He grabbed my blade arm with his impaled shoulder, locking me in place, used his broken arm to strike again and again. Those splintered bones tearing through my armor. The pain was unbearable, but I couldn't break free. His grip was like industrial steel. That's when my emergency extraction team arrived. The human heard the ships coming. You know what he said to me? He said, "Remember this. Remember what happens when you corner humans." Gray's outer membranes paled further. The extraction team had to pry his dead fingers off my arm. Even in death, his grip didn't loosen. The medics said his muscles had locked up, his last action preserved by his body's final surge of chemicals. The commander looked at each young soldier in turn. The human died there, in that forest. But he achieved his mission. The facility's core data was completely wiped. Half of our elite unit dead, the rest of us wounded or traumatized, all because we underestimated what humans are capable of. Would you like to hear what we learned later? Gray asked. About why humans are the way they are. About the evolutionary pressures that created such terrifying capabilities. The young soldiers nodded, their earlier bravado completely forgotten. They understood now that they weren't just hearing a war story. They were learning why their entire military doctrine had changed after first contact with humans. Very well, Gray said. But remember, what I'm about to tell you is why we now train our soldiers to avoid pushing humans to their breaking point. Because when humans break, they don't collapse. They transform into something nightmarish. Commander Gray's compound eyes reflected the dim light as he began explaining the deeper implications of his encounter. After that mission, our scientists became obsessed with understanding humans. They studied their history, their evolution, their biology. What they discovered terrified our high command. The commander pulled up a holographic display showing the human evolution. At our high command, the commander pulled up a holographic display showing the human evolutionary path. Most species evolved to either fight or flee from danger. But humans? They evolved to do both. and more importantly, to keep doing it, long past the point where other species would give up. Their ancestors weren't the strongest or fastest. Instead, they survived through sheer persistence. They would chase prey under the hot sun for days, following cracks, never stopping until their target collapsed from exhaustion. This gave them something unique in the galaxy: the ability to override their body's survival instincts. Medical Officer Stone's antennae twitched. But, Commander, how did this make them such dangerous warriors? Because, Gray explained, these same traits that let them chase prey for days also let them fight beyond normal biological limits. Their bodies develop systems to keep functioning despite severe injuries, extreme exhaustion, or overwhelming stress. The holographic display shifted to show human internal biology. Look at their redundant systems. If their liver is damaged, other organs can take over some functions. If they lose blood, their bodies automatically redirect it to vital organs. Their bones can repair themselves, often becoming stronger at the breakpoints. But the most frightening part is their brain chemistry, Gray continued. Humans developed something called the runner's high, a reward system that releases pleasure chemicals during prolonged physical stress. This same system activates during combat. First Scout Smith's mandibles clicked in disbelief. They enjoy fighting? Not exactly, Gray corrected, but their bodies reward them for exhaustion. The harder they push, the more these chemicals flow. It's a feedback loop that can keep them going far beyond what should be possible. The commander's voice grew grave. Our scientists discovered that human combat capabilities actually increase under severe stress. Their visual processing speeds up, their strength multiplies, their pain tolerance becomes almost unlimited. They enter what they call hyperfocus, or combat flow. Most species, Gray explained, become less effective as they tire or take damage. Humans become more dangerous. Every injury, every setback triggers more of these survival chemicals. They literally evolve into better warriors in the middle of a fight. The young soldiers shifted uncomfortably as their commander continued. There's a human phrase, fight like a cornered animal, but even that doesn't capture it. A cornered animal will eventually submit when it knows it's beaten. Humans, they've evolved past that instinct. They'll fight until their bodies physically shut down. This is why our combat doctrine changed, Gray said, deactivating the holographic display. We discovered that traditional military tactics don't work against humans. The more you hurt them, the harder they fight. The more you corner them, the more dangerous they become. Engineer Rock's voice quavered. Is this why we have the non-engagement protocols? Exactly, Gray nodded. Our high command realized that any conflict with humans would become a war of attrition, and while we might win individual battles through superior technology or numbers, humans would never stop. They would keep fighting, keep adapting, keep coming back until either they won or were completely exterminated. The commander's outer membranes flickered with remembered pain. The human who merely killed me. Our medical analysis showed that he had enough combat chemicals in his system to kill most species by themselves. His body was literally burning itself up to keep fighting. And this wasn't unusual for them. It was a natural response encoded in their DNA. Gray looked at his young soldiers with grave intensity. Would you like to hear why we now maintain peace with humans at almost any cost? Why our entire military strategy shifted after we understood what we were dealing with? The recreation chamber was silent as the young aliens nodded, their earlier mockery of human capabilities now replaced with a growing sense of dread.